Hola, bienvenidos a todos. Good evening. My name is Abelardo de la Peña Jr. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications con la Plaza de Cultura y Artes, and I'm welcoming you to tonight's En Casa con la Plaza. There you go. I'm repeating myself there. Anyway, welcome to En Casa con la Plaza. It's our virtual programming. We've been doing this since last April, almost, well, more than a year actually, as we went into the pandemic and now working our way out of the pandemic. Thanks to all of you who have stayed safe, that have been healthy, that have helped to move us along as we go through this difficult period. If you've joined us on Zoom, use the chat feature and the Q&A feature. We use that to take questions, to hear your comments, your shout outs. If you joined us on Facebook, use the comment section as well. Ask questions, make comments, let us know where you're viewing from, share with your friends. But before we get started, La Plaza has reopened. Thursdays through Sundays, we're open from noon to 4 p.m. Go to our website at lapca.org to make reservations, or you could come in between noon and 4 p.m. We might just have room for you to come on in. We recently opened our exhibition, Only Light Can Do That, a neon art installation by Patrick Martinez. Visit day or night. It's beautiful. It's part of the We Rise initiative by the County of LA for Mental Health Awareness Month. Our public programming begins in May with Molcajete Dominguero, our Latino Tianguis on our historic Paseo walkway. Watch for it on our website and also on our Facebook site. And finally, LA Arts Recovery Fund, initiated by J. Paul Getty Trust and administered by the California Community Foundation, announced a $1.2 million grant to La Plaza de Cultura y Artes that will enable us to expand our programming, exhibition, and educational initiatives and develop long delayed capital improvement projects. So congratulations to us. We just found this out actually yesterday. So thanks to all of you for your support. And now the man of the happy hour, let's bring up Dan Guerrero. Zoom in, Dan.
I'm there.
You're there, yeah.
But wait a minute, back up. $1 million?
1.2.
Oh my God. Wow. So are we getting any of that money personally, or is that strictly? I'm just asking.
Hey, I knew you were gonna ask. We'll have to talk to the big boss upstairs.
Oh, Johnny's a pushover. I'll get us a couple of bucks. Don't you worry. You're a pretty little head about it. So I am there. You can see me. Okay, good.
Yes.
Anyway, it's been a good week, more or less, a scattered week. I have finally ventured out into the world. Last week, I went to Palm Springs, very brave. I have not left this house really since everything started, except for the supermarket and stuff. But I went out there for a few days and there's people out there.
Yeah, there are.
And I see the traffic in LA is returning already. It's like old LA already.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah,
but in a good way and in a bad way. But we're out for the good tonight.
Well, but it is interesting because it is going to be because things like these Zooms, a lot of them, they're not going to go away. People like doing them, instead of schlepping an hour in traffic to get somewhere, and they can do it on a Zoom. You think they're not going to try? So we'll see.
We're gonna keep you around, Dan.
I hope so. With $1 million, you can barely afford me, but let's do it. Let's do it.
All right.
All right. We will see you a little bit because now I'm going to chit chat about tonight's guest. I'll see you. Well, tonight's guest. How come I don't see me? Wait, I got a gallery view. Hang on. This is a very informal speaker gallery. There we go. All right. Oh, I look pretty good. Not bad. Okay, so tonight's guest is known widely as by many people as La Profe, the professor who, in her own words, has been raising hell in academia since the early 90s, and that's the truth. Others know her as an award-winning novelist. Some know her as a renowned poet, and she's all those things. Now, what ties it all together is that in all these disciplines, she explores gender and sexuality, Chicano art, popular culture, border studies, and but I mostly have always loved her elegant name. Oh my God. And for me, it conjures up a woman in full body armor on a white stallion, like a Chicana Joan of Arc. And in a way, she is, because she is a soldier for social change and social justice, using her work as a sword. So I want you to meet the beautifully named Alicia Gaspar de Alba. Zoom in, girl. Not on horseback, I assume. Where are you? So are you not a Chicana Joan of Arc or what?
You're too much.
I really think you're a Chicana Joan of Arc.
I like that. Thank you. She's always been
Good.
one of my favorites.
How are you doing? What's your beverage of choice tonight? I want to thank you for being with us tonight.
Salud with my Virgin Cosmo or Cosmo Virgin, however you want to put it.
Tomato, right?
Exactly. And what are you drinking, my friend?
A very simple martini, plain, ordinary. I'm a martini, vodka martini. I can't do gin, that's for sure. But sorry, because I think, well, I guess I shouldn't say that, but it seems to me most people, and maybe I'm wrong, they think of you in academia, and you are a long time and very popular professor at UCLA. And we're going to talk about all those things for sure. But first and foremost, I know that you've always considered yourself a writer.
Yes.
As you put it, and again, using your words, primero que nada, right?
That's right.
Tell us about that. Why writing always, huh?
Always, ever since I was a little kid. I mean, I wrote my first poem to a cat that was hiding out in our garage when I was about 8 or 9 years old. And my grandmother didn't like cats hanging around the house. So it was kind of hiding out, and I was hiding it in the garage. And I wrote it a little love poem. I was really like in love with that little cat.
But where we have a photo of you of that age. Is this about the time you were writing poetry to a cat? Abelardo? Look at that.
Pretty much. I mean, look at those dreamy eyes.
Wow. But
Yeah.
where did that come from, Mija? Where did that come from? Was there because usually there's this spark, like, and then I knew I wanted to be a director, I wanted to be an actor, I wanted to be whatever. I mean, was there any chispa, or it was there?
You know what? It had to do with my name, because my name has always been kind of a trauma for me. My first name is my mother's name, and I was not raised with my mother. I was raised with my father's parents, and they did not like my mother. And so they said horrible things about my mother. And of course, I needed to remove my mother's name from my name because, it was not something I wanted to be associated with. I think I
Right.
was in first grade or second grade when the nuns called my grandmother and said, "We're so sorry to hear about Alicia's mother." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "Because she died." She said her mother had died. And so in my mind, she
Sure,
had died.
sure.
Yes. And so I had all these thoughts going on in my head. And at some point, I started journaling. I don't even remember the exact moment I started journaling. I do know that I was always a reader. And I was always reading, one thing or another. And I think that all that reading kind of generated that spark to write. But I can't say with any kind of precise date or year when it actually started for me, when the journaling actually started for me. But that's really what it was. It was a way of talking to myself. See, I was raised with my grandparents as like basically their youngest child. My aunts and uncles were already grown, pretty much, except for one who was 8 years older than me.
You didn't have siblings? Did you have siblings?
We were separated at the divorce of my parents. Yes, my brother went with my mother, my baby sister went with my other grandmother, and we
Oh,
didn't
so
really.
you were really without siblings. You were
Right.
solo. You were solo flying at that age.
More or less. I had a lot of cousins. I had so many cousins, and it was typical for everybody to get together on Sunday. And I
Yeah.
was the oldest, so I was the oldest of the cousins, and I had to tell them, we had to watch the bullfighting because I liked bullfighting, and I didn't like cartoons. And my cousins would cry and go to their mom or my grandmother about how I didn't let them watch cartoons, but I, no, because I'm the oldest and I want to watch bullfighting. So there's always been that streak.
All this was on Barcelona Street, right in El
Exactly.
Paso.
Yeah.
Now this is interesting. I'm going to pose the question to you that I did. I had two other guests recently who were border children, as it were,
Okay.
Lalo Alcaraz
Yes.
and Gregory Nava.
Mm-hmm.
They were both in San Diego, Tijuana, and you, of course, were Ciudad Juarez and that. But that, as Latinos,
Mm-hmm.
facing their dualities really up close and personal so early on, obviously had a tremendous impact on them, and it has followed through in their work as it has with you. I mean, we're all obviously victims of our youth, but I'm saying the border issue and the duality of being Mexican or American or Mexican American is compounded, I would imagine, when you grow up on a border, when the border was something you went across all the time, probably.
Exactly. That's what I was going to tell you. For me, it wasn't, I wasn't aware of the duality because part of my family lived in Juarez. We did all our shopping in the mercado, and the carniceria in Juarez had better meat than the Safeway or whatever it was that where we bought food in El Paso. I guess it was FedMart at that time. And, so for us, it was just going back and forth. And Barcelona Street was literally like 2 blocks away from the river. Okay. So, I mean, when I say I literally grew up on the border,
Oh,
I can say I literally grew up on the border. And in fact, I say that I was actually kind of born in the middle because when I was born in 1958, and now I've told everybody my age, but that's okay.
who
Um,
cares?
yeah, right. When I was born, the clinic that I was born in was on the El Paso side of the river, but that river was constantly moving and changing. And in 1964, there was the Chamizal Treaty, where it was established that we had to put a concrete line in the sand and say this is the actual border. And at that point,
Wow.
a bunch of blocks in El Paso became Mexico. And so the clinic that I was born in was what part of that, area that was returned to Mexico, because that Chamizal area is the only part of Mexico that was ever returned to Mexico. And
Oh
this was
my
in
God.
1964. So then I was like, well, so like I was born in the US, but now it's Mexico that I was born in because of that particular location. So
It's like that's line everybody uses. We didn't cross the border crossed us. I mean, it literally did.
it literally did. It literally did.
Wow.
Yes. And I remember being a kid. When I was a kid, people would ask me, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" And my answer was always, "I want to leave El Paso." I didn't know why, but I just
Well,
really
you were a very wise child, is
I
what
know
you're
I
saying.
needed to get out of there for some reason, and only to know for the rest of my life, El Paso is going to follow me everywhere. And it's going to be the absolute central motif of everything I do,
Of
not just my
course.
writing, but my teaching as well, and the activism, that I do. So, as they say, you can take the girl out of the border, but the
Yes.
border out of the girl, never.
No, El Paso's getting even with you, sweetheart. Like, you think you're leaving me? Olvídate, mija.
Right.
But we have another photo I love. So you were very active in school. Can we see that next one? Is
Oh
that you? That's you looking up, right?
That that's me. That's me setting the ball. I was a volleyball
That's you?
player. Yeah, that's me. I was a
Because this girl kind of looks like you, and I can't see her face there. That's you?
That's me. Yes, I was
You
number
were
43.
tall?
I wasn't tall. I was just stretched out because I was setting. You know.
Wow.
Let me tell you a little story about myself and Eastwood High School. That's where I went to high school. I like to brag that I put girls athletics on the map at Eastwood High School because there was no girls athletics, and I was writing for the newspaper at the time, and I had been assigned to cover sports, and of course that meant boys sports. And so I started wondering where the girls' sports was. And I started writing editorials in the student newspaper about where's the girls' athletics? Where are the girls' teams? We need girls' athletics at Eastwood. And I guess I made enough noise about it that we got girls athletics. And then I was recognized by the El Paso chapter of the National Organization for Women for
Oh,
raising hell.
wow. Rising hell everywhere. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. So we got a volleyball team, a basketball team, and a track team. Absolutely.
You should brag about that. That's incredible. That's huge.
I know, I was pretty happy about that. And then I got us letter jackets the following year. They weren't even giving us letter jackets, and then they came up with some weird little design that was very like kind of like ladylike, and I said, "I don't think so. We want to be like all the other athletes at Eastwood High. We all have to have the same letter jackets."
Oh,
We got letter jackets too.
oh my God, that is fantastic. That is fantastic. What did your family think of you? Did they think, what is this child? Because obviously you were different from all the others. They must not have known what to do with you.
They didn't know what to do with me. They didn't know I was doing all that stuff. As long as I got home at the right time after school, I didn't really talk too much about my life in school. It was only when I was writing for the newspaper and having to stay a little bit late because of deadlines and stuff that my grandmother was wondering what I was really up to. And I was like, well, what I'm really up to is I'm writing a story that's due tonight, you know? And so she wasn't happy with my getting home late because, of course, like all Mexican girls, I had a curfew, and mine
Of
was 10
course,
o'clock.
of course.
Yes.
Yeah, I was a Mexican boy in East LA with a curfew too, so
Hey, there you
it's
go.
the same. It's the same. Now let's jump ahead a little bit because after earning your master's in English at the University of Texas in El Paso, you
Mhm.
moved to San Miguel de Allende to,
Mhm.
again, in your words, live a writer's life. But it turned out a little differently because I understand you wound up weaving little rugs or something, no? Isn't that true?
I learned how to weave. I took
Uh-huh.
a tapestry weaving class and a paper making class.
What
And
about the writing? You went to be a writer.
no, I wrote. I would write in the morning, and
Okay.
then I had a long day ahead of me. And partying didn't begin until after sundown, right? And so there
Wow.
was like a lot of time to fill in. And I loved being in the Bellas Artes space because sitting there in the little cafe area, waiting for my classes to start, drinking my little Nescafe, right, and writing in my journal, it was just like the most pristine moment of just such serenity and beauty. You could hear people practicing piano and violin
Yeah.
and voice and all of the other arts
Yeah.
taking place. And then I was going to take my paper making class, and I learned how to make traditional amate paper that's made out of bark, that kind of that
Mm-hmm.
rough
Sure. And
stuff.
then they paint on it.
Right, yes, yeah. Now that wasn't on the agenda for the class, but I told them that I really wanted to learn how to make that. And so, they couldn't do the actual traditional way of doing it because it would have taken forever to pound out with a stone, those fibers, but it was pretty close. And so I loved learning how to make paper.
That must have been a very magical, magical time. It's such a magical place anyway. Did you go on your own? Did you go with a friend? Did you quickly make friends?
I was going to go to Puerto Vallarta with a friend of mine who also graduated that same year. He was also a poet, and he was a white man poet who was my best friend. That kind of didn't make any sense, but we really got along well. And so we were going to travel together, but things didn't work out in Puerto Vallarta. It was too expensive. I didn't have enough money. The only reason I even went is because out of the blue, right after I got my master's degree, I get this credit card in the mail saying, "Welcome to Mastercard,
The
and you have
American
a three
way, the
thousand
American way.
dollar limit." And I can get all this money as a cash advance. I went and did that. I had no idea about, interest rates and all these things. I got $3,000. I bought my bus ticket, and I was on the way.
Fantastic, fantastic. I love that story.
Yeah,
Now let's jump ahead again because then you move to Boston
right.
and you move there to get into publishing. Is that right? Why would you
Well,
want?
before Boston, I went to Iowa City where I
I
started.
didn't want to bring that up because I didn't want to embarrass you, but go ahead.
Okay. Hey, it's a beautiful place. It really is.
Okay.
Now, I had never been to the Midwest, so I was like in deep culture shock. Uh, but it was beautiful. The cornfields were especially beautiful. I met all kinds of people that I'd never met before, including like really like white dykes, you know, the kinds with the Birkenstocks and the keys clamped to their jeans
Right.
and the hair, and they were not into butch femme at all. They were only into like whatever the androgynous thing was. And I had come out of Juarez as a coming out place, which was extremely butch femme. You did not cross the lines or any of those things. So it was a strange place in that regard. And then I met Cubanos and Puerto Ricanos and people from
In Iowa City.
yes, and they were all queers. Okay, they were all queers. In fact, I was taking a feminism class, and a girl in the class called me up, and she says she's an Irish person, but she spoke perfect Cuban Spanish, and she goes, "Chica, te quiero invitar que una fiesta de maricones y tortilleras." And I'm like, "Okay, I know what a maricon is, but what's a tortillera?" I didn't know what a tortillera was at the time. And she couldn't believe it, you know, because apparently that's what in Mexico and Latin America is another word for lesbian. So there you go. I'm like, of course I want to go to this party. And I was absolutely, you know, flabbergasted that I was meeting queers from Cuba, from Puerto Rico, from Argentina, from Venezuela that I had
Wow.
never even known about because in you know diversity in El Paso is Mexican or
Mhm.
Anglo or you know a little bit of you know African American and a little bit of Arabian, but there's not really any Latinidad. At least when I was growing up, you know,
Mhm.
the Latinidad was not there. And so hearing all of their accents was amazing to me. I became like this parrot and I started speaking like a Cuban to the point where I would call home and my grandmother would say, "¿Quién es?" You know, you know, she did not recognize me anymore because of my weird Cuban-like accent that I had, you know, somehow absorbed through osmosis. But anyway, so it was a very short year for me in Iowa, but it was a very important year. And I wrote one of my iconic poems there called Making Tortillas about this whole notion of, you know, the tortillera being a lesbian, because I wanted to know what the connection was. And so then you know, I wrote a poem about that. If there's a chance later, I'd like to read it, if we have time,
Sure.
you know.
Sure.
But that's why I don't want to skip those because I really learned a lot, not of what I intended to learn, other than the fact that I thought academia was not for me. I started the PhD in American Studies, and I thought, okay, I cannot do this. This is just reading all white men, whether they're historians or literary critics or writers. And you could take a women's studies class if you wanted, that's what it was called, or a black studies class if you wanted, that's what it was called. But that was it. There was no other form of diversity, and it was not something I could do. And so I did drop out of PhD school and went to Boston. I've always wanted to work in publishing, and I figured, and the East Coast had always been very attractive to me, and I wanted to, you know, see what living on the East Coast was like. So I figured, hey, I might as well go out there and see if I can get a job at a press or something. And the person I was with at the time, my girlfriend had herself already gone to Boston because she'd gotten accepted at I think it was the University of Boston at Massachusetts, and she had transferred, you know, her hours, I mean her credits over there. And so I figured, why not? Let's see what that's all about. So I lived for 4 years in Boston, not going to school, not as a student of any kind, but you know, as a person who was really, I was dedicating myself to being a writer.
And that's when you got that old typewriter and would do 4 hours a day, a $600 typewriter used or something.
Exactly. I decided, okay, I got a full-time job as a Braille transcriber. Okay, I learned how to read Braille, and sighted people do not read Braille with their fingers. Okay, we read the dots on the page, which is kind of hard on your eyes because it's like white dots on a white page, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
it was interesting until it wasn't, because the books that we were transcribing for the blind were not that interesting, except the children's books. I loved transcribing the children's books. And so then I thought, you know what, this full-time job business, this 9 to 5 business is, I can't do it. It's not me. You know, I'd been teaching as a TA, and I'd been substitute teaching, and I'd been tutoring English. So, you know, this 9 to 5 stuff was just
Yeah,
not
it
for me.
was varied. Every day was different. You had different things,
Exactly.
and
It
not
was
just that.
variety that I missed.
Yeah, yeah.
9 to 5, everybody said the same things to you every day at the same time, etc. So I went down to part-time, and I got a job teaching English at UMass Boston, and decided, okay, I have traded in time for money. Okay, so I'm going to buy myself a typewriter, and I'm going to commit to writing on this typewriter, and writing my novel that I, been carrying around with me since El Paso. And so that's what I did. It was a big, one of those big clunky IBM Selectrics
I
with a
love
little,
those old typewriters. I love those.
with a little ball,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Around. It was very fast. I loved it. It was fantastic, and I loved that sound, that clackety clackety clackety.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. I
yes,
have it on my computer. They said, "Do you want it silent or do you want the typewriter?" I said, "No, no, give me the typewriter sound."
that's right.
Yeah, I like hearing that click.
Makes you feel very productive.
Yes, it
Yeah.
does. It does.
Right. So there I wrote my collection of stories. I wrote my collection of poems. I did all the research for my Sorjuana novel, and the research for the second novel, which is a calligraphy of
On that same same typewriter.
on that same typewriter. And
I was going to ask you if you still had it.
and in those 4 years, no, I don't have it. Are you kidding me? When we when we left Boston, we were on a bus from Boston to El Paso. Okay, I wasn't gonna carry around, schlep around some big old 100-pound IBM Electric.
But it was your baby. How could you leave your baby?
I had to sell it. There was just no way I could carry it
Oh,
around. Yeah. I mean, it was hard enough fitting a futon, rolling up a futon into a refrigerator box. Okay.
okay. Let's talk. You brought up Juana, so let's talk a little bit about the books. Now you've been published extensively in several languages, we should add, and your novels, stories, and poetry have won quite a few literary awards, and we can't do them all, but I'm going to read these because I do want to get it right. Your 2005 novel, Desert Blood, The Juarez Murders, won the Lambda Literary Award for Best Lesbian Mystery Novel and the Latino Book Award for Best Mystery Novel. I thought that was interesting.
Mhm.
Lesbian or not, it was a great novel.
Mhm.
And it, of course, is about the unsolved murders of all the Mexican women and girls along the border. And also the award-winning historical novel Sorjuana's Second Dream, which is a lesbian reinterpretation of the life and work of Latinx culture's most iconic 17th century nun, known as the first feminist of the Americas, which also became an opera.
Yes.
Tell me about the opera and the book. Tell me anything you want.
Okay, I don't know where to start. That's a long story. Yes, the
Okay,
picture
then you know
started
what?
in
Cut to the
Boston.
opera. Cut to the opera. How did you? Because you co-wrote the libretto, or she wrote the.
Yes, this is what happened. The novel gets published in 2000 and no, in 1999, and in 2001 or 2002, I get a call out of the blue in at UCLA. I was in my office, and this person says, "Hi, my name is Carla Lucero. I'm an opera composer, and I literally just finished your novel. I'd love to set this novel to an opera, and I'm calling to see if I
Wow.
have your permission."
And you crawl through the phone and said, "Yeah."
Wanted to, exactly. I wanted to. I was like, is this a crank call? I couldn't believe this phone call, right?
Hey, Alma, there's some nut on the phone that wants to turn my book into an opera, right?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't Alma at the time. Okay, but that's
Oh,
another story.
whoa, you've had a busy life. This is getting
I've
good.
had a few marriages, but this is the one I've been waiting for, and this is where I am and where I'll be. Thank you very much.
And we're going to meet her in a little bit too.
Yeah, exactly. You sure are.
Okay, go
So
ahead.
anyway, so I asked her, she asked me, she says I said it, but I didn't say I'll help you co-write the libretto if you want me to, because I didn't know anything about a libretto. You know, I think she asked me if I wouldn't mind helping her out with a libretto. And I said, well, I'd be honored. I don't know what that means, but please let me know whatever I can do.
We have a photo of you with her. I think it's at the premiere of the opera.
That's right. There you go. That's us, Carla and Alicia, the dream team. I mean, she really is an amazing person to work with. She is so great to work with. In 2005, we both happened to be in San Antonio. It was one of those things that
Yeah,
happened, you know, serendipitously. She was
yeah,
there to
yeah.
take some Spanish classes, and so she was there for a few months, and I was there on sabbatical. And she was found a room at you know, the house of a friend of mine, and so that's what we decided, that we might as well, like, now that we're in the same place, because she is in San Francisco, or she was in the Bay Area. Uh, we sat down to work, like, as much as possible during this time that she was in San Antonio. And it was the most amazing thing. Everything I learned about how you do a libretto, you know, how you have to adapt a piece, you know, to the libretto. Now, my novel had already been set to a play by a Los Angeles-based playwright named Olalis Nanin, and that had been performed in 2003. So I had kind of helped a little bit with that. So a little bit of the libretto was that, because of course it's dramatic and you have to tell the story. But then, you know, all the other parts that came to creating a voice for Sorjuana's soul that was not a character in the novel, and that we ended up
Mm.
calling El Alma, okay? And who was this very gender fluid character who would have a very gender fluid voice. I think it's called contralto. Ooh, I don't know. I hope I didn't get that wrong. But anyway, it was an amazing experience. But it was always just like the funding was only for little bits and pieces, never for the full thing.
Yeah.
Now, if we flash forward to 20, what was it, 2016, 2017? I think it was 2017, 2018. I don't remember anymore. I was chairing LGBTQ studies at the time. And it occurred to
At
me
UCLA, at
at
UCLA.
UCLA, and it occurred to me that it would be an amazing thing if we could bring the opera to UCLA through UCLA Opera, and use it as a way of welcoming what I thought was going to be the first cohort of PhD students in LGBTQ studies. I had been working very hard on writing a proposal for the first PhD in LGBTQ studies anywhere in the world. And I had already done that for Chicano Studies when I was chair of the Chicano Studies department a few years earlier, and had written the proposal that ended up getting approved. And now we have amazing graduates who are already professors in their own right. And so that whole thing flourished beautifully in Chicano Studies. And I thought it would do the same in LGBTQ studies, because of course we have all the talent, we have all the professors, we have all the resources that we could ever want, and, you know, to get this program off the ground. So my argument basically to the dean of the music school was, you know, it would be a way of celebrating the opening of this first, you know, PhD program in LGBTQ studies with this performance of this opera that has been written based on a novel written by a faculty member here, co-written also by the same faculty member. And it would be it's basically an all-woman production in terms of the, you know, the organizing team, the editor, I mean, the director and producer and all these things. But of course, it was under the supervision of the UCLA Opera UCLA director. Um, and it was such an incredible thing, what we learned, what we did. The resources that UCLA provided for us in terms of getting a dramaturg in to help us craft the kind of story that would really, you know, just jump off of the
Yeah,
stage,
yeah.
you know, and really grab you and stuff. Anyway, it turned out to be an incredible performance. It premiered November 2019.
And
And
what about its future? It was a single performance. Now
no,
what?
no. Actually, it was after, like, it was only there for a weekend, and in that weekend, we signed a con. Well, basically, we negotiated with a company in New York City, uh, which is Del Arte Opera, to perform it there in August, and everything was, set to go in that direction,
This past
except
August.
COVID came
Ah,
around.
yeah.
And so then that died. But there was a lot of interest from a lot of companies that were contacting Peter, the director, and also Carla, about wanting to, have the opera there. And we're
There are
talking
tons
about
of opera
everybody.
companies, ton of opera companies in the country. I was shocked when I
Yeah.
remember when I directed the mariachi opera
Yes.
at the Soraya, Cruzar la Cara de la Luna. And when we were casting it, I put out calls just to find out all the opera companies, even just in California, where we could fly. And I was shocked at how many, you only know about the gigantic ones, but there are
Right.
wonderful small opera companies
Exactly.
looking to premiere works or to explore new. Yeah, I'm sure you're going to have a whole world there.
So
I want.
hopefully we'll be able to get back into that, right? Once this whole COVID thing,
Oh yeah.
we'll pick it up where
Yeah,
we
yeah,
left
yeah.
off.
Listen, everything just got about. Would you pass this up? And then we had to wait, but now salt, it's going to pick
Exactly, that's
up.
where we are.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You were like everybody. I mean, everybody was caught midair. I was in the middle of film festivals, and 5 went away overnight, and everything stopped for everybody.
I know.
But we have to talk about UCLA. But first of all, that's how we met. I think we have a beautiful photo of us that you sent me. I love that photo.
I know, you were our
I look
Regents
almost
Scholar.
intelligent, don't I?
You were great. Remember you taught that class that you were so nervous about? The Power of One?
No, I remember you're calling me and asked me to teach a course based on my show. And did I have a CV? And I said, what is that? And then you said, and we'll do a syllabus. And I said, what is that? And you still wanted me. I knew nothing about any of that.
But wasn't it fun when we were crafting that syllabus together?
Oh, God. And how fast did we do it?
Yeah, well, we had
Because we knew what we were. I knew what I wanted to say. You knew the right way to say it, and we did it.
yeah.
But I want to talk about your UCLA world, which could be an entire show by itself, because you were raising hell. You were, as I said in the beginning, or no, I didn't, but I would thought about it. You were one of 6 founding faculty members of the then Cesar Chavez Center for Extradisciplinary Instruction in Chicana and Chicano Studies.
Yes.
That's huge. And I want to know, I mean, I'm sure how it came about would take an hour by itself, but I want to concentrate on what the climate was for Latino students on the campus there in the early 90s at that time where this came to be. What was the climate like? And how many Latino students were there?
I have to tell you, though, I was dissertating at the time. I got my dissertation out of University of New Mexico. So I was writing my dissertation and not really at UCLA yet. I was at UCLA in 1993 because I was doing researching the not then assembled archives of the famous Cara exhibit, the Chicana Art Resistance and Affirmation exhibit. That's the subject of my dissertation and of my first academic book. And I had weaseled my way into the archives. They didn't want to let me in. And I said, I've got to finish my dissertation. I need to get in there. And one evening, as I was walking down the stairs overlooking the sculpture garden, I had this feeling. It was a full moon. It was February of 1993. And I had this gut feeling. And I said, I'm going to teach here one day. I really just knew it,
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that.
I had no idea anything of what was going on at the time, and I had no way of knowing that in May there would be this hunger strike by, basically generated by students, and then a couple faculty members, community members, who just all of a sudden launched a hunger strike to save Chicano studies from, basically being killed at UCLA. And
They were
so
going to cut it completely.
they were going to cut the budget of the library. The Chicano Studies Research Center and the library, of course, had been there since 1969, like all the other ethnic studies centers.
Wow.
It was a time of like one of the worst budget cuts that UCLA had ever experienced, and one of the reasons that they wanted to cut out Chicano studies is that they looked at the list to see how many graduates we had, how many majors we had, and I think at the time there were maybe 20 majors, and it was a kind of a ad hoc program where faculty from other departments would give up some of their time and teach, or be allowed to teach from the departments to teach a class. And so there was nothing that you could really count on as like a steady curriculum that would actually like be able to generate more and more students that would then graduate, that would then create more of a demand. There was none of that. All right. But the reason there was none of that is because there was no the administration had not made any commitment to Chicano
Right,
studies as a field of study.
right,
And
right,
so,
right.
and so in general, students knew that once the library was cut, and that that meant the Chicano Studies Research Center would be gone, the program itself would be gone. They couldn't. That was it. They said no. We have got to do something about this. And so after 14 days of rigorous, I mean, it was really hard, obviously, on their bodies. Some of them were hospitalized. Some of them were damaged, from literally putting their life on the line for this, to the point where it got to the point where the California legislatures would come to campus and say, you're letting these young people die. We're not going to allow this. We have got to like come to an agreement. And so after all this negotiating, an agreement was reached, because what the students wanted is they wanted the university to commit to a department of Chicana and Chicano studies, to do the opposite of defunding, but in fact to actually fund a department, because that was the problem. They said the reason we don't have majors and graduates is because we don't have a department, and you haven't funded one. And so they didn't want to actually call it a department yet, but it was an agreement that it would be this kind of like amorphous, uh, kind of experimental unit called a Center for Interdisciplinary Instruction. In this case, the Cesar E. Chavez Center for Interdisciplinary Instruction, then named because it was happening right at the time that Cesar passed away.
Yes, exactly. In
Exactly.
93, he died in 93, I believe.
93, right. And so that's why it was named after him. And so finally the agreement was, even though the students wanted a lot more faculty and a lot more money, and to be called a department, it was called a center. They agreed to 6 full-time founding faculty members that would be appointed in Chicano studies, and funding for course development and curriculum development and program development and all of these things. And so when I heard about the job opening, I had just literally filed my dissertation in March or May of 1994, and that was the same year that they were taking applications for those first 6 positions. So I submitted my application, and here we are.
And the rest is history.
27 years later, I'm still here.
And we have a lovely picture at the podium at Chicano Studies. I'll
Yeah.
tell you, it was, I'll forever, I love you anyway, but I'll always be grateful for your coming to me, because it opened up a whole new world to me. I started doing lectures. I taught the course a couple of times there. I became
Regional lecturer. Regional
Yes.
lecturer, yes.
Yes. And and that photo that we showed earlier.
Community scholar in Chicano studies.
Yes, I was very proud of that, very proud of that. And that photo was when I did the keynote for the Chicano Studies graduation, which was the most, I can't even tell you, because I remember you're saying each graduate gets 3 minutes to talk. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be here for hours. And it was the most beautiful, inspiring, hearing those stories from each of those students and what they went through. so I forever be grateful because it's been that was a wonderful experience for
And their
me.
families, all of their
Oh,
families there, and all the
oh,
sacrifices that their
yes,
families have
yes.
made for their
I'll
them.
never forget that one woman. She was a single mother, and she had to take, I don't know, 2 buses and a train and a canoe to get to class. She had a little girl who was in the front row, and she was speaking in a cap and gown, and the little girl ran up at one point and put her arms. Oh,
Yes, that was beautiful.
oh,
Exactly.
yeah. That was
Yes.
it was so beautiful, so beautiful. Anyway,
A little girl. There's a little girl in here who wants to say
I
hi.
was about to say, we're going to get to your very eclectic home life. You are married to the renowned digital and artist and muralist, the world famous Alma Lopez.
Look what she's calling you.
And
Say it again,
Azul. Hello, Azul. Listen, that
honey. Hi,
blouse.
Tio Dan.
I love that blouse. That's Wonder Woman. Who is that?
Yes, it's Wonder Woman. She's our Wonder Girl.
We have a lovely photo of you. Mija, Alma, step up, sweetheart. Look at this. Tell us about this day. Tell us about this day.
Right in here.
Yes,
Tell us about.
that was the adoption day, where the adoption was finalized, and this was at the court. Mm-hmm. And we got a certificate of family membership. That
Fantastic.
was an amazing moment.
I
Yeah.
remember I was honored to be at your wedding
Oh God, yes.
on the high seas. On the high seas, we went out on it was gorgeous. Oh my God.
In Newport Beach, no less.
Well,
I what?
no,
Newport Beach.
yeah,
Yes.
Orange County.
Orange County. And the thing is, we had to do it on a boat because we had to be married by a captain. Because, if I stepped into a church, who knows what would happen?
Lightning.
Absolutely.
I would probably catch on fire.
Because of your
Anima sola, that would have been Alma.
that was burning.
yeah. Poor Alicia would turn around, there'd be a puff of smoke and your shoes just sitting there next to
There you
her.
go.
I had red shoes.
She had the red shoes too.
I remember that you were in a beautiful white tuxedo and you were in complete Mexican Frida Kahlo drag with the bridesmaids and all the embroidery. It was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. How many years ago was that now?
13 almost.
When it was
Wow.
first legal here in California.
In 2008, we were among the first 1,800 same-sex couples who were married.
I thought we'd gone out to sea because it wasn't legal yet on land, and it was legal out there. No,
No,
huh?
it was legal. It was in that little window of opportunity
Ah.
before November 4th and all that. Yes.
And how is it with Azul, 2 mommies and the baby, and how do you split things and who runs where? And you both have such busy careers.
Oh, she's incredible. She's such an incredible child. And yeah, she just folded right into our family. I mean, she just keeps right up with us. Right, honey? Yeah. She keeps right up with us. She's got her own eccentricities. She loves to dance and sing. She's going to go and learn some moves from you.
Oh God, tell her not to go into showbiz, whatever she does.
Oh my God. She's already there. She
Oh,
loves watching
okay,
herself
there you
dance
go.
in the mirror and all that good stuff.
Now,
Yeah.
Azul, you have some cats. Don't you have pets? What do you have? Cats or dogs? What do you have?
I got cats and dogs.
Cats and dogs. And what are their names?
Penny and Lucy and Alice.
Beautiful. I love that. And
Uh-huh.
do they love you as much as you love them? I'm sure that's true. I'm sure that's true. I'm so happy. Alma, I'm so happy you have to come and do one by yourself and then she can stand in the back. How about that?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, this is an amazing artist right here.
I
My
know.
wife,
Well, wasn't she, and
incredible
also, I know
wife.
you collaborate on lots of things, but didn't she do some work on the opera as well? Wasn't she involved in the opera? Did I misread?
Well, no, the opera, before the opera, there was a symposium. And of course, Alma, who designs all of our posters, designed an amazing poster for that. But she also designs, basically the covers of all of my books since 2003 or something. And so we have that collaboration even before we were married or into each other. We were good friends, and we worked very well together. and she would often speak in my class. And then when the whole controversy happened, that she can talk about when you're interviewing her, it's an important story. And
Right, right. Oh
yeah,
yeah, I
and
remember.
we got really close also.
But also for the opera,
Oh,
I would see Carla and Alicia having such great fun writing the libretto. I mean, who knew that writing a libretto was so funny? And so they would just hang out laughing. And I thought, you know what? I need to have some fun here too. So then I decided to do an entire photography series where I dressed Alicia and other professors and other friends as Sorjuana. And
Oh, were those portraits you sent me?
yes.
Oh,
We're
they,
all dressed as Sor Juana, and yes,
oh, they were
all the bad
beautiful.
ones.
yeah, we're all the bad Sorjuanas.
Yes, las peores de todas is what it's
So
called.
Azul,
Azul?
who's the boss in the house? You or your mommy Alicia or your mommy Alma?
Me.
I thought so. I thought so. I suspected as much. We're gonna have, this has been so fantastic. See, it was fun. Didn't you have fun?
I loved it. Of course,
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun.
I told you it's very informal and fun. And Abelardo has been collecting people writing in with questions. Do we have any questions, Abelardo, that would
Okay.
be interesting?
Well, we don't have questions, but we have a lot of saludos. We
Well,
have
let's
from-
take them.
Sure, from
Bye.
yeah,
Bye, Azul.
okay.
There you go.
From San Antonio, Texas, we have Rachel Delgado saying saludos.
Okay.
Yaya Hidalgo, she loves the talk about Tex-Mex.
Okay.
Olivia Wilkins, hello from Lucerne Valley.
Wow.
And Hilda Cardial Ambris from Windy, Ontario, California. Olivia Wilkins, she loved the IBM Selectric typewriter story. She also loved the round ball sound. And I had one of those myself. Audrey Chavez, hola from Bakersfield. Oh, we have Yoli Mora. I love your novels. Alicia, write another.
Thank you, Yoli. Trying to get there.
And then Chris Morales, hola from Santa Barbara. And Audrey Chavez, she remembers Cesar Chavez presente. And she says, hola to Azul.
Oh, how sweet.
How many books have you published?
Oh, okay. I have 12 books published. Yes.
That's what I thought. That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
3
amazing.
of them are anthologies. So I edited them with pieces of mine inside there, as well as pieces of a lot of different scholars. And one of them actually I wrote, I produced from the work that Alma, that controversy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was called Our Lady of Controversy. And so it's an amazing anthology. But the others are academic books and collections of poems, stories, and 3 novels. Yes.
How long is your poem that you wanted to read?
Oh, it's not that very long. You want me to read it?
If it's not 10 minutes.
I don't think it's going to be 10 minutes. And it's kind of sexy.
And it's what?
Kind of sexy.
Please read it. Please read it.
Okay. Thank you. Making tortillas. My body remembers what it means to love slowly, what it means to start from scratch, to soak the maize, scatter bone dust in the lime water, and let the seeds soften overnight. Sunrise is the best time for grinding masa, cornmeal rolling out on the metate like a flannel sheet, smell of wet corn, lard, fresh morning love, and the light sound of clapping. Pressed between the palms, clap, clap, thin yellow moons, clap, clap, still moist, heavy still from last night's soaking, clap, clap, slowly start finding their shape, clap, clap. My body remembers the feel of the griddle, beads of grease sizzling under the skin, a cry gathering like an air bubble in the belly of the unleavened cake, smell of baked tortillas all over the house, all over the hands, still hot from clapping, cooking. Tortilleras we are called, grinders of maize, makers, bakers, slow lovers of women. The secret is starting from scratch.
That is a perfect way to go, Mihai. Beautifully written and beautifully read. I thank you so much. I haven't been to your house in a long time, and you're a good cook. So now that we're all vaccinated and things are opening up, we don't live that far from each other. I'm
No.
looking for free food.
Okay, barbecue coming up.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you so much for inviting me. This really was a lot of fun.
It was the best. Thank you so much, Mihai. I love you.
I love you.
Abelardo, take it away.
Gracias,
I
Abelardo.
sure will. Thank you so much, Alicia, for
Abrazo.
joining
Bye-bye.
us. Abrazos. Finally, Olivia Robledo, thank you for joining us as well from San Fernando, and Gloria Alvarez sending abrazos y adelante. Well,
Oh,
thank you all of you who joined us tonight for En Casa con la Plaza. This was really fascinating. I enjoyed it tremendously, Dan and Alicia. Of course, we have more En Casa con la Plaza coming up tomorrow. Well, a rare Saturday show, but it'll be a good one. We have something for the family. Songs from our abuelos with Sara Quintanar from Music with Sara. She'll be singing songs that were handed down from our grandparents and parents. So please join us tomorrow at May 22nd, Saturday at 10 o'clock. At 10:30, a little bit, you could join us on YouTube with En Casa con Familia, which is our YouTube programming from our education department. We'll be learning about the Poblano chili. So that's, I mean, you could spend all morning with La Plaza de Cultura y Artes here online. Then finally, on next Monday, we have a repeat of En Casa con la Plaza Cocina, Aguachile Verde de Camarón con Chef Luis Cárdenas, La Medina Cocina Abierta. A special one, Wednesday, May 26th, the founding of La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. This, of course, is our 10-year anniversary of La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. We opened up in 2011. And we'll be joined by Gloria Molina, retired LA County Supervisor, and Miguel Santana, presently President and CEO of Weingart Foundation, who are very instrumental in the development, the planning, the organization, the construction, and everything having to do with La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. That's on Wednesday, May 26th at 7 p.m. And finally, on Thursday, May 27th, we have Yolanda Nava with us. She was also one of the early board members of La Plaza, but she's also a journalist, an author, and an inspirational speaker. She'll be talking us through her recently published memoir, Through the Dark, by Yolanda Nava. So that's Thursday, May 27th. So thank you so much for joining us on En Casa con la Plaza. Thanks to our sponsors, Kaiser Permanente and PepsiCo. And if you didn't catch this program, if you want to watch it again or any of our other En Casa con la Plaza programs, please go to our YouTube site at La Plaza LA, also on our Facebook at La Plaza LA, or our website, lapca.org. Remember, La Plaza de Cultura y Artes has reopened. We're open tomorrow and Saturday, Thursdays through Saturdays. You can make a reservation at lapca.org, or you could probably even walk in between 12 and 4 if we haven't reached maximum capacity. We're moving out of the pandemic. Things are coming back to a different kind of normal, but we appreciate you being here with us tonight on En Casa con la Plaza, and we hope to see you soon. All right, buenas noches a todos. Bye-bye.